Hey there, Seahawks, it's Miss Adams, and in this video we're going to talk about factoring a trinomial when there is not a leading coefficient. So we're going to basically do the exact same thing as we did when there is a leading coefficient, and then I'm going to kind of show you how to make it a little simpler once you kind of get the hang of it. So we're going to do the first term, which is a 1. The leading coefficient this time is a 1, times the last term, which is 12. And I'm going to do my side work, so I'm going to list all the factors of 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and I'm looking for the set that matches and adds up to 7. So that would be 3 and 4. So I'm going to break apart the 7x into 3x and 4x, and then I'm going to bring down the first term and the last term. Now that I have 4 terms, I'm going to group and factor. So in my first group, I'm going to pull out an x. That's going to leave me with an x plus 3. And in the next group, I'm going to factor out a 4, and that's going to leave me with x plus 3. So my factors are x plus 4 and x plus 3. All right, the next one. So I have x squared plus 9x plus 20. I'm going to do the first term times the last term. So 1 times 20 is 20. And then I'm going to list the factors of 20. 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. I'm looking for the combo that adds to make 9. So that would be 4 and 5. So I'm going to split apart the 9x into a positive 4x and a positive 5x. Then I'm going to bring down the x squared and the 20. Now I have 4 terms, so I'm going to group and factor. In the first group, I can factor out an x because both terms have an x. So I factor out 1x. That means I'm dividing everything by x. That's going to give me an x plus 4. In the next group, I can factor out a 5. So that's going to give me, when I divide by 5, x plus 4. So my factors are x plus 5 and x plus 4. All right, number 2, y squared plus 2y plus 1. I'm going to multiply the first term times the last term. 1 times 1 is 1, and the only way to make 1 is 1 times 1. So I'm going to break apart 2y into 1y plus 1y, and I'm going to bring everything else down. Now I have 4 terms. I can group and factor. In the first group, I can pull out a y. That leaves me with y plus 1. And in the next group, I can pull out a 1. That leaves me with y plus 1. So my factors are y plus 1 and y plus 1. So another way I can write this is, since I have 2 of them, y plus 1 quantity squared. All right, number 3. First term times the last term, that's going to give me negative 8. So I'm looking for numbers that multiply to give me negative 8. Negative 1 and 8, negative 2 and 4. All right, negative 2 and positive 4 would make positive 2. So I'm going to break apart the 2x into negative 2x and positive 4x. Then I'm going to bring down the first term and the last term. And now I have 4 terms, so I can group and factor. In my first group, I can pull out an x. X goes into x squared, x times x goes into 2x, leaves me with a negative 2. In the next group, I can pull out a 4. 4 divided by 4 is going to leave me with the x, and 8 divided by 4 is going to leave me with a 2. So my factors are x plus 4 and x minus 2. If you notice, when I got my 2 pieces that I was breaking apart the 2x, it was a negative 2 and a positive 4. So when I don't have a leading coefficient, or when my leading coefficient is just 1, then those terms are always going to make my factors. All right, so let's take a look at this one. My leading coefficient is 1, so I do the first term times the last term, that's going to be negative 6. I'm looking for the factors of negative 6. Add to make positive 1. So negative 1 and positive 6, negative 2 and positive 3. Negative 2 and positive 3 would make positive 1. So I already know my factors are going to be g minus 2 and g plus 3. And if you don't believe me, we can go ahead and still do that work. So we split apart the g into negative 2g and positive 3g. We bring down our n pieces, and then I have 4 terms, group and factor. In the first group, I can pull out a g. That leaves me with g minus 2. In the next group, I can pull out a 3. That leaves me with g minus 2. And so I'm back to my answer of g minus 2 and g plus 3. Okay, and that only works, that little trick only works if your leading coefficient is a 1. All right, next problem. First term times the last term, we get negative 3. I'm looking for numbers that multiply to give me negative 3. but add to give me negative 2. So I can have negative 1 and positive 3, or I can have positive 1 and negative 3. So positive 1 and negative 3 is going to give me negative 2. So my factors are going to be a plus 1 and a minus 3. And if I do the work, I break apart the 2, negative 2a, into 1a and minus 3a, bring down the end pieces, group and factor. In the first group, I can factor out an a. That leaves me with a plus 1. In the next group, I can factor out a negative 3. That leaves me with a plus 1. So my factors are, in fact, a plus 1 and a minus 3. All right, 6. I want you to try this one on your own. So pause and try it. You should get x minus 10 and x plus 3. All right, number 7. I want you to try this one on your own also. Pause and try it, and you should get x minus 8 and x minus 3. All right, number 8. First term times last term gives me 49. The numbers that make 49 are negative 1 and negative 49 because I want them to add to make a negative, and negative 7 and negative 7. So negative 7 times negative 7 makes positive 49, and negative 7 plus negative 7 makes negative 14. So I'm going to break apart the negative 14 into negative 7x and negative 7x. Bring down the end pieces, and then group and factor. In the first group, x goes into both of those, so I can pull that out. That leaves me with x minus 7. In the next group, I can pull out a negative 7. That's going to leave me with x minus 7. So my factors are x minus 7 and x minus 7. So that's x minus 7 squared because I have two of the same thing. All right, 9. This one has a leading coefficient. So I could do it like I've done it before, or I could just factor out a 2 from the beginning. So I factor out a 2, gives me this. Now I can go ahead, bring the 2 down, and do 1 times negative 12 is negative 12. List the factors of negative 12. I'm looking for the ones that multiply to make negative 12, but add to make negative 4, which is 2 and negative 6. Bring the other pieces down. Then I can group and factor. In the first group, I can factor out an x. Leaves me with x plus 2. The next group, I can factor out a negative 6. That leaves me with x plus 2. So I have the 2 from the beginning that I pulled out. Then I have x minus 6. And I also have x plus 2. All right, this one also has a greatest common factor. So 5 goes into all 3 terms, and they also, all the terms have a y. So I can pull out a 5y. So if I divide everything by a 5y, I'm going to be left with x squared minus 3x minus 28. Now inside the parentheses, I don't have a leading coefficient. So I can go ahead and find the numbers that multiply to make negative 28 and add to make negative 3. So one number is going to have to be a negative, and one number is going to have to be a positive. And I'm going to want my bigger digit to be negative. So that's 4 and negative 7. If I break that apart, bring down the first and last term, group and factor, I could pull out an x. That leaves me with x plus 4. I could pull out a negative 7. That leaves me with x plus 4. So when I bring down the 5y as one of my factors, my other factor is x minus 7, and my other factor is x plus 4. And that's it.